Um, Thank you, Acting Speaker. I rise to give my contribution to the Justice Legislation Amendment Miscellaneous Bill of 2025, which implements the time-critical reforms to achieve administrative efficiencies and correct technical errors and legislation. I'm not really sure where to go after saying that much. Being almost at the end of, well, I was meant to be one of the last speakers. I've heard everyone talking about everything else. It's been a very wide-ranging debate, and there's been some really lovely lines. I did like what the member for Euroa said. And you know, when we read these bills, and it's only a very small bill, there's not much in it, but I love the way that everyone interprets what's being said. And I do like the statement, delays dressed up as reform, which is one way to look at it. The other way to look at what we're doing in this bill is getting it right, taking the time, being careful, being curious, looking after the people that this bill supports. I think they're all really interesting things. And I also like that song, From Little Things, Big Things Grow. And this bill, there's just a lot of little things in this bill. They're important things, and again, I don't know why, it's because it's late on Tuesday. I look at this bill and I keep thinking of that milk commercial where the guy goes to the shops and says, I want milk, and the lady says, you know, light milk, skim milk, you know, almond milk, and on, and he says, I just want milk that tastes like milk. Yeah. It's the same thing for this sort of bill. This is, you know, it's just, there's small things in this bill that on the scheme of things might not seem to be all that important, but they are. I also apologise because I'm sure I'm going to say the same things that a lot of other people have said during their debates, such as this bill will amend the Crimes Act of 1958, the Justice Legislation Amendment Criminal Act Appeals Act of 2019, the Criminal Procedures Act of 2009 and Sentencing Act of 1991. It will correct errors in the Worker Screening Act of 2020, amend the Social Services Regulation Act of 2021 and amend the Magistrates Court Act of 1989. So what does that mean, really? Well, it just means that we want to look after everyone that works in the court system. You know, these amendments make things easier, make things fairer, make things equitable, support people that work within the court and justice system, and can make their lives a little bit easier, and it's good for their health and well-being. So again, these little changes might not seem like much, but to some people they mean a lot. It also is the same thing. We're supporting people that are going through the court system and the magistrates system. We're trying to make it more fairer, more equitable, to help people go through what they're going through. As I said, I've heard a lot of different things. I think the member for Mercurio, I'm not really sure if she spoke about anything on the bill, which was good. It's always entertaining. I like the member for Murray Plains who kind of commented that some people were reading notes that might have been given out to us or not, and then he proceeded to read notes. And that's okay. I don't begrudge that. These bills, I'm going to refer to my notes. These bills are sort of minor, and it's trying to get your head around it to make sense. And again, the way we interpret the bill, I was sort of disappointed that the member for Nepean came in and spoke for 4 minutes and was very negative. And again, you know, that's okay. I mean, I guess that's politics, and we've got one side of the chamber and the other side. But there are good things in this bill, and there are more important things in this bill than just doing the political thing of slamming each other on from across the way. I find there's some interesting, I find some things amusing about the bill too, and I might just talk quickly about the bill. It corrects mistakes in the Worker Screening Act of 2020, and they're just technical fixes, but I think I don't know how people do this, how they sit in their offices and they go through all this legislation and find these points. And I really say this to people, not so much to everyone in this chamber, but to people at home. God bless them if they're looking at Hansard. There's got to be better things to do. But if you are, a good example of correcting what one might call minor errors is in Part 4 of the bill, which is amending the Worker Screening Act of 2020. And to not go too far into what the bill actually says and what's being changed, changes such as Section 17, which includes an incorrect reference to Section 38, which should actually, in fact, reference Section 37. And Section 36 includes a reference which actually belongs to Section 35. And Section 61 includes an incorrect reference to Section 72, which actually should be in Section 22. I love it. Doesn't sound like much, but as I said, this goes to supporting people working in the justice system and the court system. And this, that to me is an example of important but necessary and mundane changes happening as part of this bill. And it's part of our work, it's part of what we do here. And it's really great when we get really exciting bills that we can sink our teeth into, but that's not always our job. And as I said in other debates, I know we talked about the clerks or officers out in the back room with their many coloured pencils going through all bills, the acts, legislation, and finding, I mean, how on earth do you find out that Section 35 was actually meant to be 36 and then 71 was 72, but 61 talked about it? I don't know. But again, I know many people have thanked the officers and the people that are doing this really important work. I thank them, and again, I think, being able to do that is really quite insane. I want to make sure that I leave a little bit of time to talk about butter. And I know that's going to really upset the member for Frankston. And a lot of people have talked about butter, and I know the member for Werribee is really keen to get up and have a chat about butter. But I've got something that no one else can say about butter, and also the reason that it's in this bill, because obviously there was some nefarious activity and going on in the butter industry, and there was a Royal Commission in 1905. I note that the Royal Commission into butter in 1905 was 13 pages long. The Royal Commission into the mental health was 5 volumes and over 3,000 pages long, so they didn't really work that hard back then. Which I shouldn't say, because my great-great-great-grandfather, Evan James, he came out from Wales when he was a young kid, and he actually moved to Benalla. I don't know if you know this story, member from Shepparton. And he actually ended up being the Shire president of Benalla for quite a number of years. But he also owned a butter factory. And he used to make butter and send it off, I guess, to Melbourne, and they would then send that off to London. So unfortunately, I looked at it, my great-great-great-grandfather died in 1904, but the Royal Commission started just around that time. So I do think that, I'm happy to say that there is a reason I can talk about butter in this chamber, because I had a family member involved in actually probably the corruption of the butter industry. Well, or maybe not. I shouldn't say that. Uncle, great. I want to call him an uncle. There we go. I think I've only got a minute and a bit left, which is a relief for everyone. I do want to just go back quickly and say, bread. Yeah, I could. I'm earning my bread right now. Look, there's a lot of work. I just want to say too that there was a lot of consultation with, where's that page gone? With the powers that be in making sure that this bill was discussed and agreed to. So I'd like to thank very much the people and the stakeholders that were engaged in this, the police, the court system. These people helped shape the clearer and more focused offences of this bill. Victoria Legal Aid, the Office of Public Prosecutions, they were all involved. The Magistrates Court, the Supreme Court, they were all involved in talking about this bill and the changes, the small changes that it makes. I think I would then just like to reiterate again, I mean, we debate these bills, and in conclusion, thank you very much, because I've got 9 seconds left, member for Nepean. You know, these things are really important. Sometimes they don't make sense, but they're really important, and I thank